I wanted to talk about the scene where Aemond steals Vhagar.
Sure.
That was
That
interesting.
was super cool, and it felt very YA. Felt very young adult, like
How to Train Your Dragon.
Well, no, it felt honestly, it was really cool because you got to see this kid who, until now, like, yes, they did the weird pig thing to him, but he's pretty innocent. He just wants a dragon, right? Like
He's like, I want a cool
I think we
dragon.
can all relate to that. Can you imagine it being your birthright to ride dragons and you fucking can't?
Yeah, you have a pig. Yeah, I lose my mind. And your older brother's like the sort of heir, and you're just nothing. So
Yeah. You're the spare, right?
Yeah.
You should at least get to ride a dragon.
Yeah.
But anyway, him going and doing that and facing that was a very formative event. That's one of those tapestry events that we keep talking about.
Yes.
That was Aemon's Rhaenyra on the bridge with Daemon,
Totally.
right? And so not only was that a triumph for him, it was also a triumph for the Greens and Alicent and all of that, blah, blah, blah. They have the strongest dragon now. But the scene itself was it was magical. It was like, can you put yourself in that position, in his shoes? You literally prevented the dragon from roasting you, from being incinerated, using the words that you learned. Because he learned that by watching and independently studying, the words to use. Because he obviously hasn't done it himself before,
Right.
So it was so lucky that he just knew what to say in that moment.
He listened to Harry speak parcel tongue in his
Yeah,
sleep.
exactly. And then going and doing it, the joy and like the triumph of hanging on as well, not falling off, because he was like 3 pounds of grip strength away from death.
I thought he was gonna fall off and die. Like I thought that was gonna be it. I was
Yeah.
prepared for that.
Yeah.
But that scene was so exciting, and
It
he finally
was.
rights the ship, and it was kind of beautiful, and then he gets off. He gets off, and he's just a little fucker.
He's a little
you
shit.
know, like it's he didn't have to do that.
I know.
right?
No.
I know what you're saying. Like when we were watching, I was kind of joking and like, but I mean this in like a nice way. It reminded me of when Harry's riding Buckbeak.
Yeah.
In Prisoner of Azkaban, just like this like nice, I mean, that's a much lower stakes moment, right?
It's wish fulfillment. It's
yeah.
true fantasy.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like that little kid part of you that's like tickled when you read good fantasy or when you watch good fantasy.
Absolutely.
Like that's how that felt. You're totally right. I did really like that moment, even though Aemond is a little shit and I hate
it's
him.
such a
But-
beautiful payoff from last week. It's like a direct echo to the dark dragon pit we saw him in last week.
Yeah.
Where like slowly we see the pig come out. Here slowly we get to see the dragon's true size and ferocity.
Mm-hmm.
And like the brightest thing in that scene is the dragon's eye and the moon. There are so many
Yeah.
scenes in this episode that are cut like montages.
Yeah.
Whether it's Rhaenyra and Daemon planning the Laenor thing,
Mm-hmm.
or the whole altercation with the kids that is all these jump shots of combat between them punching each other.
Mm-hmm.
This, I think the YA thing is partially because we see every swoosh and movement and flap of the wings, and
Yeah.
we really get to suspend almost the whole narrative
You have to
and
chew
just
on it.
we get to pretend that we're riding a
I
dragon for a few
know.
minutes.
I'm realizing now that I think what's unique about the Game of Thrones world, like both the books and this story, is that we're not just following the adults or just following the kids. We're getting to do both. Because like when you read like YA, for example, fantasy, and you're following the one kid, you see everything from their perspective. You get the riding the dragon moment, you get the, you know, getting to become king or getting to learn the thing or whatever, and you kind of know what's going on with mom and dad, but like you don't really. And so like, but we get to see this conflict among the kids about Rhaenyra's kids being bastards, about like, well, he punched me, oh, he kicked me, oh, he threw a rock at me, he cut my eye out. Like you get to see it from their perspective, but then we also get to see the ramifications and everything else going on with the adults. And I think that's a pretty cool thing to have, because we get that in Game of Thrones too, right? We get Arya and Sansa seeing what happens with Joffrey and the butcher's boy and Lady, but we also see Ned and Tyrion and Jaime. Like we get to see all of that, so I think that's pretty cool.
And I just listened to that chapter again,
Yeah.
and you see Robert's total exhaustion and exasperation with having to deal with it and hear everyone's stories.
Yeah.
And Viserys so reminded me
Yeah.
of that he had that same exasperation, and I was so crestfallen that Viserys is now reminding me of Robert Baratheon instead of Macbeth. It totally serves that Duncan point, because any sort of parallel to Robert.
I know. Well, we drew
you've
parallels
checked out.
in the hunting scene. We really drew parallels there. So yeah, I love that YA thought. Tristan.
But I do just want to say, so I mean that I feel robbed though, because I was with him in that moment, and then whenever he got back out and said, "Yeah, it was your mom's dragon," what?
She's dead now.
Yeah, she isn't gonna write it. Like, you know, I feel upset because that was maybe between he and the daughter Helena, I guess, were the two sort of Team Alicent characters that I was like, okay, maybe we can get a level-headed, POV style character on that side, and then he does this and is immediately a villain,
I know.
like irredeemably a villain, a little shit.
Because he's a little Targaryen.
I wanted to feel bad that he lost an eye, but like he was trying to, he literally punched every single one of those kids, was about to bash Jace's brains out. The only
Nearly
reason
strangled the other one.
Yeah, the only reason that they lived is because these Rhaenyra's children work together well as a team.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
That was cool. With the sand
to
and
see. Yeah, exactly. But I didn't want to hate Aemond, but now I find him very irritating. And his brother, we already know how he is. Jerking off onto the city,
Right.
and getting drunk at a funeral.
Yeah.
cool guy.
It's just I want there to be a redeeming quality in Alicent's side, and I am just
It's not there.
not seeing one.
No, because she's a bad person and is
So-
raising bad children.